In the far northern reaches of Chile lies the Atacama Desert, one of the most punishing and hyper-arid environments on Earth. Certain expanses of this barren landscape have not witnessed rainfall in centuries, creating weather conditions so hostile and dry that space agencies utilize the terrain to simulate the surface of Mars. Yet satellite images of this desolate wilderness reveal an unsettling anomaly amidst the windswept dunes. Vast, unnatural mountains of synthetic color. Tens of thousands of tons of discarded clothing lie decaying under the blistering sun. T-shirts, dresses, jackets, and denim, unworn, discarded, or deemed obsolete before ever finding a home, form an artificial geography in a place where almost no organic life can survive. This silent graveyard in the desert is not an isolated accident. It is the visible endpoint of a hyper-globalized, multi-billion-dollar apparatus known as fast fashion. Driven by relentless corporate incentives and engineered consumer demand, this industry relies on a business model that treats the planet's finite resources as infinite fuel for disposable apparel. For centuries, the clothing trade followed the natural cadence of the calendar. Apparel makers produced two primary collections each year, one for spring and summer, another for autumn and winter. Translating a design sketch into a garment sitting on a retail rack was a deliberate process that took up to 6 months. That paradigm shattered in 1975 in the coastal Spanish town of A Coruña, where entrepreneur Amancio Ortega opened the first Zara store. Ortega's innovation was simple yet radical. Eliminate the traditional lead time and compress the production pipeline to just 15 days. Instead of 2 seasonal releases per year, the brand introduced 52 micro seasons, dropping fresh inventory every single week. This constant rotation created a manufactured sense of urgency. If a shopper did not purchase a garment immediately, it would be gone by the following week. The strategy transformed retail browsing into an impulse-driven sprint, generating unprecedented sales growth and forcing competitors like H&M and Forever 21 to mimic the high-speed supply chain. In recent years, the industry accelerated even further with the rise of ultra-fast fashion platforms like China's Shine, driven by proprietary algorithms that scrape real-time social media trends, search queries, and online user behavior. These platforms analyze emerging aesthetics in hours. Within 3 days, a trending visual can be converted into thousands of physical garments offered online. Shine uploads between 2,000 and 10,000 new styles every single day, releasing more distinct designs in a single week than traditional fast fashion brands produced in an entire year. Worldwide apparel manufacturing now generates between 100 and 150 billion individual garments annually. That equates to roughly 14 new items of clothing produced for every human being on Earth every year, creating a colossal surplus of garments capable of clothing the next 6 generations. Despite this massive overproduction, the average garment is worn only 7 to 10 times before being banished to the back of a closet or thrown directly into the trash. In developing markets experiencing rapid retail expansion, such as India, over 40% of purchased garments are discarded after just 1 or 2 wears. This rapid disposal cycle is not accidental. It is the result of sophisticated psychological engineering. When a consumer encounters cheap, attractive clothing online, the brain releases a surge of dopamine, triggering the exact neurological reward pathways associated with gambling and chemical dependencies. Medical experts note that digital commerce has transformed shopping into an accessible, low-friction behavioral fix. This neurological trigger is reinforced by social media architecture. Platforms like TikTok host billions of views under haul hashtags, where creators unbox dozens of cheap synthetic garments in rapid succession. Apparel companies systematically feed this ecosystem by providing micro-influencers with free inventory in exchange for video content, normalizing the concept of massive single-use fashion purchases. This dynamic creates a severe social stigma around outfit repetition. Studies reveal that 1 in 3 young women in developed nations considers a garment old after wearing it twice, while a significant portion feels immense pressure never to appear on a social media feed in the same clothing twice. This culture traces back to the foundational principles of modern consumerism. In 1932, prominent advertising theorists formalized the concept of artificial obsolescence, the strategy of making perfectly functional products feel emotionally outdated long before they are physically worn out. By aligning social status with transient trends, the fashion industry successfully detached clothing from utility, transforming everyday attire into an ephemeral consumable. The physical cost of this high-volume model begins in the textile mills. Approximately 60% of all garments produced today are constructed from synthetic fossil fuel-based polymers, primarily polyester, nylon, and acrylic. These synthetic fabrics are essentially flexible forms forms of plastic. Every time these synthetic garments are washed, mechanical friction breaks down the threads. A single load of laundry in a standard washing machine can shed between 600,000 and 7 million microscopic plastic fibers under 5 millimeters in size. Because municipal wastewater infrastructure is not engineered to filter particles this small, these microplastics flow directly into rivers, lakes, and oceans. An estimated 500,000 tons of microplastic fibers enter the world's oceans each year purely from residential laundry, representing over a third of all marine microplastic pollution globally. This is equivalent to dumping 50 billion plastic water bottles directly into the ocean annually. These microscopic pollutants do not remain confined to marine ecosystems. Scientists analyzing biological samples have detected synthetic microfibers inside human lung tissue, bloodstreams, liver tissue, kidneys, human breast milk, and the placentas of unborn infants. While long-term toxicological studies are ongoing, preliminary research indicates that systemic exposure to microplastics induces cellular oxidative stress, DNA damage, and long-term inflammation. While synthetic fabrics leach plastic into the biosphere, natural fibers carry their own heavy environmental footprint when produced at an industrial scale. The history of cotton cultivation demonstrates how agricultural demand can erase entire geography. Between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan lay the Aral Sea, once the fourth largest inland body of water in the world, supporting thriving commercial fisheries and complex wetlands. Mid-century agricultural diversion schemes redirected the sea's feeder rivers to irrigate vast arid fields of monoculture cotton. Today, the Aral Sea has almost entirely evaporated, replaced by a toxic desert. The dust blowing off the dry seabed, laced with agricultural chemicals, causes elevated rates of respiratory illness and throat cancer among local populations. Growing conventional cotton requires vast amounts of water. Producing a single cotton t-shirt consumes roughly 2,700 liters of water, enough drinking water to sustain one person for 2.5 years. A single pair of denim jeans requires approximately 7,500 liters of water. Furthermore, the processing and dyeing of these fibers creates severe industrial pollution. The fashion industry accounts for roughly 20% of all global industrial water contamination. In major textile manufacturing centers, local river systems have been converted into chemical conduits. Factory runoff saturated with synthetic dyes, heavy metals, and phosphates turns water bodies unnatural shades of red and purple, lowering local water tables and rendering surrounding farmland sterile. The environmental degradation generated during production is matched by an overwhelming disposal crisis at the end of a garment's life. The fashion industry generates roughly 92 million tons of textile waste every year, the equivalent of one full garbage truck of clothing dumped into a landfill or incinerated every single second. 87% of all discarded clothing ends up in landfills or waste incinerators. Less than 12% is downcycled into low-grade industrial materials like insulation or cleaning rags, and less than 1% is ever recycled into new clothing. To manage this surplus, developed nations export millions of tons of secondhand garments to the global south under the guise of charitable donation or commercial resale. In Accra, the capital of Ghana, the Kantamanto market receives roughly 15 million imported garments every week. Local traders refer to these secondhand bales as obroni wawu, a phrase translating to dead white man's clothes, born from the belief that no living person could possibly discard so many usable items. However, up to 40% of the imported clothing arriving in Ghana is of such poor synthetic quality that it cannot be sold or worn. This unusable surplus overflows from municipal landfills onto nearby coastlines. On Chorkor Beach, textile waste has compacted into a solid 6-foot deep layer of synthetic trash embedded directly into the sand. Because synthetic fabrics take centuries to decompose, communities frequently burn these piles to clear space, releasing clouds of toxic smoke into local neighborhoods. Elsewhere, such as in Southeast Asia, excess garment waste from international footwear and apparel brands is burned directly in brick kilns as cheap industrial fuel. Faced with an escalating social and environmental crisis, international regulatory bodies have begun taking steps to hold apparel manufacturers accountable. In France, groundbreaking legislation targets ultra-fast fashion platforms by imposing environmental surcharges on low-cost items based on their ecological footprint. Meanwhile, the European Union has passed mandates mandates banning the destruction of unsold apparel, a common industry practice used to maintain artificial scarcity, and is introducing digital traceability standards that will require garments to carry transparent supply chain data by 2027. Systemic change also depends on shifts in consumer behavior. Halting the momentum of fast fashion requires moving away from short-term novelty and returning to long-term utility. Adopting simple operational rules, such as evaluating whether a new garment will realistically be worn at least 30 times before purchase, eliminates impulse buying. Rejecting the social media-driven stigma against outfit repetition restores value to durable wardrobe choices. Furthermore, proper garment care, such as washing clothes less frequently, opting for local tailoring repairs, and extending the lifespan of existing garments, substantially reduces personal environmental impact. Material choices also play a critical role. While virgin synthetic fabrics generate ongoing microplastic contamination and conventional cotton places severe strains on water resources, alternative materials offer lower impact paths. Organic flax linen and organic hemp require minimal water, eliminate the need for synthetic pesticides, and actively regenerate agricultural soil, while remaining completely biodegradable at the end of their life cycle. The global fashion apparatus was constructed to prioritize high-volume turnover at the expense of environmental stability. Reversing this damage requires a fundamental shift, recognizing that every piece of clothing carries a permanent ecological weight and demanding that the clothes we wear are built to last.